Here, by the banks of the Thames, is the London suburb of Mortlake. It's a reclusive sort of place. A lot of people have never heard of it. And yet 400 years ago, it was home to one of the most remarkable men this country has ever produced. Dr. John Dee, a man of vast learning who was widely thought to know everything about everything. Dee's house was close to where I'm standing. He'd been widowed more than once, and a lot of the time he lived on his own, but he was looked after by his faithful housekeeper, Goody Faldo. His house also contained his vast collection of books, the largest private library in England. Just across the road from Dee's house was the parish church, where the bell ringers still perform just as they do today. The church itself would have been very familiar to Dee. It was completed just a few years before he came to Mortlake, and he would have attended services here regularly. This is also where Dee was buried, and close to that point is this plaque, which was recently unveiled.
We've got a slightly unorthodox way that we're going to do this. It's going to look a bit magical, but I'm going to do it by cutting this wire here. In 3, 2, 1... 0.
John Dee, astronomer, geographer, mathematician, and advisor to Queen Elizabeth I throughout her long reign. The plaque was erected by the John Dee of Mortlake Society, who wished to celebrate one of Mortlake's local heroes. And just down the road in Barnes, the Barnes Community Players are also celebrating Dee by acting out scenes from Dee's life.
Doctor?
Yes?
There's a gentleman to see you, sir.
Yeah.
Oh, he's very pressing, sir.
Tell him to go away.
I have, and he won't.
I am too much engaged.
And I'm too busy to wait around. So, you are the great Dr. Dee.
And who the devil might you be?
The name's Frobisher, Martin Frobisher.
Geography was a particular interest of Dee's. English sailors were just starting to explore the world, and many of them came to Mortlake to talk to Dee and pick his brains. One such was a rough and ready mariner from Yorkshire.
And what might you do, Master Frobisher?
I sail.
You sail? And whereabouts do you sail?
Wherever.
Ah, the Columbus of our times. And how can I serve you, Mr. Columbus?
I'll be blunt with you, Doctor. I'm not sure I can trust you. They say you're a sorcerer.
Arrant nonsense.
Is that so? Well, before I'm open with you, you'll be open with me. Now tell me about yourself.
Very well, sir. As a young man, I was admitted to Cambridge University to study classics. But my fancy lay more with geometry and mathematics. And at 19, I was elected a Fellow of Trinity College.
A poxy academical.
But after 4 years, the poxy academical had had enough and travelled to the Low Countries.
How so?
The mathematical theorems of Euclid and Pythagoras. Are you familiar with them?
No, damn me, no. Wouldn't wipe me arse with them.
Yes, well. But my ambition is to show how these can work their passage in the real world. And with that intent, I journeyed to the Low Countries to meet the master mapmaker, Gerardus Mercator.
Never heard of him.
And you, a sailor? For shame, sir. Mercator showed me the path.
What path?
The path that all you sailors will follow in due course. Tell me, Master Frobisher, when you're on the high seas, how do you know your position?
I have a sailor's nose, and I have the sun, and I do pretty well.
But not well enough, my friend. With instruments that Mercator has devised, and with the help of Euclid, I can teach you how to plot your position with the most perfect precision. What do you say to that, my friend? Does that interest you?
Oh, perhaps.
So tell me, where do you propose for your voyage?
Can I trust you, Doctor? Very well. The Northwest Passage.
Ah, the Northwest Passage. The El Dorado of the North. And the grave of more than one brave soul.
But if I can find the Northwest Passage, we can go straight to China. Riches, Dr. Dee. Oh, the treasure of the Orient.
I brought you some ale, sir.
Ah, thank you. Master Frobisher here tells us he wants to take us all to China. What do you think of that, Goody?
Mortlake's good enough for me, sir.
And for me. To be frank, sir, the wealth of Midas means nothing to me.
Everyone loves gold.
Not so. I love my country, my God, and my books. That is all.
Do you really mean that, Doctor? Well, in that case, damn your eyes, I won't waste any more of my time.
Wait. This voyage of yours appeals to me. The search for the unknown. The discovery of new worlds. Well, that's a challenge worth trying for. And what is more, if we find the Northwest Passage, we'll serve our Queen and country. Very well, sir. I am your man.
And I am yours, Doctor.
Alas, Frobisher's expedition failed. His ship got stuck in the ice and he was forced to turn back. But all this navigation business had given Dee grander ideas, and shortly after the Frobisher debark, he went off to the palace, where he had a friend, a very influential friend.
Dr. Dee! Dr. John Dee to see the Queen.
Dr. Dee. Get up from your knees, old friend. You are most welcome.
Your Majesty.
But why do I see so little of you? You are a stranger at court.
I confess I'm ill at ease here.
Oh, of course you are. This court is full of popinjays that flatter me and tell lies. But you, Doctor, you just tell me the truth. So tell me, what is in your mind today?
Your Majesty, I have a friend in the Low Countries, Dr. Gerardus Mercator.
I know the name. Dabbles in maps, does he not?
He does indeed, and he's awakened in me an interest in navigation. Consider this chart, Your Majesty.
One of Mercator's?
Yes, indeed.
A flattened out globe. Ingenious.
Now, here in the southern world, the ships of Spain have penetrated and conquered and have made it their own.
And gold has poured into their treasure chests. I know that all too well.
But the northern seas could yet be ours. And America here is still in the balance. So send out more ships to claim it. Settle the lands. Send out people to stay there and set up their homes. If you plant trees on a hillside, you settle it and anchor the soil. Set up such colonies and the land will be ours for good.
And who should we send out there?
Send out your Catholics.
The Catholics.
They are a menace to you, are they not?
Oh, a thorn in my side.
But in America, they will lead their own lives and conduct their own masses without troubling you.
This likes me. This likes me very well. Dr. Dee, some say you are a fool, but I say you are a very wise man. So, what shall we call it, this settlement of lands?
Follow the Romans. Imperium in Latin, empire in English.
The Empire of England. The English Empire? Not quite right, something like that. And talking of navigation, what news of Master Frobisher?
Bad news, I fear.
He failed in his quest for the passage.
And he failed in his quest for gold. I fear I've lost my investment.
You too had invested. I thought you had no need of money.
For my own person, no. but I need money for my books and my instruments and laboratory.
Still pursuing your alchemy, Doctor?
Do you laugh at me for that?
Good, Doctor. I never laugh at you. Did I not ask you to cast my horoscope for my coronation? Well, let's see. Perhaps there is some way we can put money in your purse. Master Clerk, pen me this letter to Sir Francis Walsingham, my Master of Intelligence. He lives but a short ride from you at his manor in Barn Elms. Sir Francis, I commend to you Dr. John Dee. He has travelled widely in Europe and speaks freely in 5 languages.
And is a master of ciphers and codes.
And is a master of ciphers and codes. If you could find him work, it would greatly please me, etc.
You are very kind, Your Majesty.
Now, sir, there is another matter I would raise. We are both single, are we not? We live on our own. For me, there are relations of state. You will understand that I cannot wed, however much I may want to. But you, Doctor, you have a choice. You are twice widowed, if I understand it correct.
I am.
I grieve for you. But you must take measures.
Your Majesty, I am about to do so. I will marry again in a month's time.
Aha! This is good news. Very good news. Well, well, Dr. Dee. There is a glint in your eye. And is there still sap in your loins?
I am pleased to say I am still in full vigour.
Then she is a fortunate woman. Long happiness to you both.
Yes. Wedding bells for Dr. Dee, who was married here in this church to the great delight of his Mortlake neighbours.
Well done, Doctor!
God bless you, Dr. Dee.
Welcome home, Dr. Dee.
Welcome to Mortlake, Mrs. Dee.
But sadly, this was not followed by years of domestic bliss. Walsingham sent Dee off to Europe to nose about on spying missions in Poland and Bohemia. There was endless travelling, and alas, this wore Mrs. Dee out.
That's the doctor for you. Full of his alchemy and spying. Hey, doctor, I says to him, you ought to look after that wife of yours. She's wasting away. And another thing I says to him, you be careful. You be very careful. 'Cause the way this country's going, it don't do to think thoughts is too heretical. I mean, it's not long since they were burning poor souls at Smithfield. And there's plenty of people as think you're a sorcerer. But he doesn't listen to me. And off he goes to the School of the Night People, with Sir Walter Raleigh and his like. Too clever by half, that lot, if you ask me. School of the Night. School of the bloody idiots.
Is it just the two of us this evening?
Marlowe will join us shortly.
Can we trust him?
He is a free mind, one of us. Have you seen this, by the way?
A new treatise on the propositions of Nicholas Copernicus. Very interesting. But dangerous matter, Raleigh. We could burn our fingers with this.
Just as we could burn our fingers on this taper as I light my pipe. But, be careful. All will be well. Will you smoke?
Inhale those foul vapours? Why should I do that?
Pipe is good company. You're never alone with a pipe.
Ah, Marlowe. Gentlemen, will you smoke?
I will try it. I will try anything in the interest of science, of course.
Talking of science, have a look at this.
Aha! Copernicus. Banned by the church, I believe, which is a recommendation in itself.
He ventures the proposition that the sun is at the centre of the universe.
And is his theory correct, Doctor?
The sun is indeed in the centre. But in the wider world, I must hold my tongue. I have enough problems already.
Yes, I heard about that. The Magus of Mortlake. That what they call you?
I am the seeker after the truth, no more.
And this philosopher's stone of yours. Ha! Philosopher's cobblers. As fanciful as the unicorn.
You are a skeptic, I can see, Mr. Marlowe. But why should that be so strange? With rennet, you can turn milk into cheese. I'm merely seeking to turn inexpensive metals into gold.
Merely? I find that as hard to swallow as this tobacco. God's name, Raleigh. You're both lunatics, gentlemen. Raleigh with his tobacco, and the good doctor with his fantastical theorems.
I have to admit, Master D, that your alchemy theory seems a little strange.
Not so. My interest is to bridge the gap between heaven and earth.
An admirable aim.
If you believe in God, which I don't.
And which I do.
So, I suggest, gentlemen, that you, Dr. D, concentrate on your researches, and you, Marlowe, concentrate on your playwriting. What is the latest subject?
I'm planning something on Dr. Faustus. I gather new ideas every day. Come to think of it, a man not unlike yourself, Doctor. Not unlike you at all. I must remember that. But enough about my plays. I hear that you and I, Dee, are now co-workers.
What is this?
I've been working for Walsingham.
As a spy?
I prefer to call it research.
Come. Spying is what we both do and what we both get paid for.
And with that money, I can continue my research. And from time to time, I send in reports to Walsingham.
And how do you sign those reports, Doctor?
Ah, please, Marlowe.
Come on, tell him.
Very well, then. I scribe 2 O's to represent my eyes. And a 7, which is a number that offers protection. That is all.
Very ingenious.
A fine conceit. 007. Who would ever guess that you were a spy?
The thing about Dee was that he knew everyone and everybody knew him. They delighted in his company, even the highest in the land. Queen Elizabeth, when she was travelling from Richmond to Whitehall, would often stop off at Mortlake to visit him, and equally often she would summon Dee to the palace for a chat.
Dr. D, welcome back, old friend. It has been a long time. Come, be seated. You have had a hard journey. You must be very tired.
Thank you, Your Majesty. Yes, I am tired, and a little weary in spirit.
Was it so hard in Prague?
There were difficulties.
And your researches? Are you nearing an end?
I still have faith, but the goals ever elude me.
As it did poor Frobisher.
Ah, Frobisher. That was a long time ago. But my interests have now leaned towards other worlds.
And what of your wife? Is she well?
Alas, no. To say truth, she is very sick.
That is sad news. What have the doctors to say?
They whisper among themselves with grave faces. I know that look. I have already lost 2 eyes. I could not bear to lose another. She is a good woman. A good woman. But she is ailing.
Well, Doctor, 2 old friends like us, we must stand together, must we not? Death comes to all of us, Dr. D. You and I are not so far from the grave ourselves. Come, sir. Let us face what we must with Good courage.
The tolling bell, saddest of all sounds. And what with the plague this year, the sexton has been pretty busy. Poor mistress, and poor Dr. Dee, who has lost a loyal companion. He bears it bravely, but it's a luckless man who buries 3 wives. In the same sad year, the actors have come to town. The London playhouses are shut because of the plague, and the King's men have come to Mortlake. Only today, 2 of the company have called on the doctor and are taking ale with him down by the river at the King's Arms. Notable men of the theatre, so I hear. But what would I know? I mean, actors. Who needs them?
Your health, Dr. Dee.
Dr. Dee. And may health soon return to London. And here's to our late Queen. God bless her, the Queen.
The Queen. Though it was not the plague that carried her off.
No, she had run her course. It was time. They say she held you in high esteem, Doctor.
It is true. She used me most civilly.
You would speak together?
Often, Master Johnson, often. We delighted in each other's company. And yes, she had a most lively and ingenious mind. Could have made a brave scholar if the throne had not claimed her.
And now we have a new monarch. Tricky times for all of us, I fancy.
A new Scottish king, and from you, Will, a Scottish play. And which is to be? You were playing a dangerous game there.
Oh, not so. King James may believe in witches, but he does not approve them.
Did you attend Macbeth, Dr. Dee?
I did not. Apologies, Shakespeare. I was greatly disturbed in my last visit to the theatre.
What was that?
Faustus, by Marlowe.
But that was 10 years ago.
It was indeed. But it perplexed me much, and it still does.
Why so?
I know, and the world knows, that it was aimed at me. All my life I have striven to uncover the truth. But that play by Marlowe, it mocked me, sir.
The path you have chosen. Surely you must have had doubts at times.
Of course I did, but I still believe in what I was attempting.
And does your search continue?
No, alas. My wit and understanding have grown mouldy. I am alone now, and no one to help me find my path through the darkness.
So it is all over. Those chemical revels of yours are ended?
They are. And the spirits have all left me, vanished into thin air.
What was that you just said?
The spirits are all gone, vanished into thin air. But no more of this. I must go. I have a letter to write to King James.
Indeed.
All my life I have been plagued by gossip and rumour. G the magician, D the conjurer. Bah! I am no magician. I'm a man of science and a man of God. I want King James to put me on trial on a charge of conjuring, so that I can defend myself.
And if you should lose the case?
Then they will put me to death.
And do you not care about that?
I care about my reputation. Nothing else. Now, gentlemen, if you will forgive me, I must take my leave. Bear with my weakness. My old brain is troubled. I must walk a turn or two. It will still my beating mind.
So, the famous Dr. Dee. How do you see him, Will?
I see a tired old man. Yet once he was admired of the whole world, the soul of the age, the applause, delight, the wonder of the court.
Well said, sir.
And now he is on his own, as if on a desert island, waiting for death. And how do you see him?
Me, Ben Jonson, the cynic. Need you ask? I see a man who could make himself much go.
No.
Well, we'll agree to differ. Come, Will, we both have plays to pen. The plague can stop us acting, but it can't stop us writing.
Not so fast. You heard what he said about Faustus. That play of Kit's almost destroyed him. Dr. Dee will be dead within a year. Let him enjoy his last days in peace.
But they will be good plays.
Of course. They will be great plays. But just wait.
John Dee died in 1609, just 2 years before the first productions of Shakespeare's The Tempest and Ben Jonson's The Alchemist. Surely Dee had been the inspiration for both those plays. He was the most remarkable and most underrated man of his century.